How are you feeling? Let us see your stomach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've officially got maternity leggings.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't wear
Wow.
pants anymore?
No, I like working out and stuff, like they just kept falling down. I'll be posting a funny video of like what it looks like, but okay. It's still like getting there, but
Oh yeah. Look at
Yay. Oh my
that.
gosh.
Holy
Emily.
cow.
I know. Weird.
Welcome to A Word with the Girls. We're back. 2025. Perhaps a bit of a disclaimer. This conversation you're about to listen to is about politics. We didn't choose a word as much as the word chose us this week, just with all of the current events and things that are filling up our social media feeds. So yeah, the conversation just kind of naturally happened, but then we felt strongly that it was something that perhaps could be helpful for people to listen to, as far as, you know, three different people with different worldviews and contexts talking about something that impacts all of us pretty drastically. Enjoy. And also feel free to turn it off if it's triggering.
Seriously though.
But we would also love to hear from you all and maybe some of the things that you do to have conversations with your families, even when it's difficult. And maybe even share some content creators that bring you joy, so that we can look at joyful, happy things in the midst of all of the stuff that's going on.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. I do have to ask you though, because I noticed that you follow someone who is extremely problematic, and yes.
I followed her so I could see what she says.
Oh, okay. There's not a person in the world who makes me so angry as she does. And when I noticed that you followed her, I was like, oh no,
do we
what
know
do I
them like
do?
personally?
And
No.
no. I don't know. I don't think she's terrible. I mean, I've watched some of her stuff. She's conservative, but that doesn't make her terrible.
Well, she is, she's hateful. Like, she's really hateful. She posted the same thing about like Elon Musk. They're gonna like tell you that it's
Oh, and when I
what he
saw
was
that, I was like,
doing.
girl, that is creepy. What are you doing?
So I don't trust her because I think that she's now trying to get herself into a position of politics. But she's anti-immigrant, she's anti-LGBTQ, and the stuff that she says is so mean. Like, she's mean.
Well, and see,
And it would be like, I'm whatever. You can be staunchly conservative, but when you use the name of Jesus to back up what you're saying about groups of vulnerable people, like, that's where I'm like,
well,
no.
and
So
I know I agree. I think she's very 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 on one side, very heavy. However, I don't disagree with some of her stuff. Some of her stuff I do stand with, like because I'm more conservative than I am all the other way. But then some of it, you're right. Like the thing where she was defending him last night, I was like,
That it's a hoax.
but I think that's where I'm like, she's not like putting Jesus first. She's now sliding down
and maybe she is. Yes, because they're all
because
sliding.
I've been like well, I don't follow her, but I've known of her for a while.
Because I started following her not very many months ago because I was trying to gain understanding from both sides, and she was so right. I actually just unfollowed her today. You can go look.
Oh, okay.
Which is so interesting.
Well, and I knew that it was recent because I keep track of who I know that follows her, because I keep track of her stuff too, because it helps me understand. But that's what's so disturbing, is that I've watched the evolution of her over the last several years, because I've known of her for like 3, 4, 5, I don't know, since the first Trump election. And so to watch her go from like conservative, kind of but like, you know, like, okay, she's using the Bible, she rubs me the wrong way because she's still kind of hateful. But now it's like, I mean, I even watched a clip of her say, you know, like, when Trump invites me into the White House, or when I run for president next time, like, it's like, and then to watch the way that she is now, like, what she posts and what she doesn't post, and like, Like I've been anxiously awaiting her post of did you see the sermon of the woman?
Amazing.
Well, she's an Episcopal, what it, she's not a
Reverend.
priest.
She's reverend.
Reverend.
Yeah.
She's an Episcopal reverend for like I don't know, convocation or whatever it is that the church service that they do. And she basically was like, she called him out.
Yeah.
Like she said, some of the stuff you said yesterday has resulted in large populations of people feeling afraid today. And I just ask in the name of Jesus that you would be mindful of those people and that you would choose whatever. I've been waiting to see what he has to say about this woman. I'm sure she'll say something
Nasty.
about Episcopalians aren't real Christians and they, if you are pro LGBTQ, then you can't be like, I don't know. But I'm interested to see what she has to say because thinks that Donald Trump is like God sent.
And I think what's interesting, like when I don't know how I found that girl. I've only ever known about her for a few months, but there are so many people that I know and love that follow her. So I was like, okay, interesting. I'm going to follow her, see what her stuff is. And yeah, like I said, it's like some stuff I'm like, yes. And some stuff I'm like, no. Even with Jonathan Van Ness, I follow him. And some stuff I'm like, I love your content. And some stuff I'm like, I don't know how to relate. And that's a no. But like, I've kept following him, but I unfollowed her literally today because after I saw her just what she was sharing and when she backed Elon, because I watched that and I even showed Alex and I was like, what do you think about that? It's like, what was he trying to do? It's like everyone's saying he's trying to throw his heart out to the crowd.
I mean, I definitely had to take a second with the Elon Musk stuff too, because I saw it popping up on my Instagram and I know, like, I follow problematic people and that's why I was convicted. When I saw that you were following, I was like, I probably follow people that would offend Abby if she knew who they were or whatever,
That's fine. I don't judge you based on who you follow.
No, and I wasn't judging. I just was like,
you needed more information.
I needed more, and I just needed to know, like,
why
you're not like forever, like,
no, I don't literally had no idea who she was.
And that's what I figured. I figured that she like popped up on your stories or something, like popped up on your stuff, and you were like, oh, I would totally hate that. Plus, she's beautiful, she's cute, she's stylish, she's got a great aesthetic. She's so very smart.
I think
she's extremely articulate.
Maybe that's the word.
Smart, I don't know. But she is very good with words.
And I like who she interviews. Like she interviewed one of the...
She does get good people. I think Rachel Cruz probably was on her thing.
I love Rachel Cruz. And
Dave Ramsey.
I love Rachel Cruz. And I know she was at the inauguration. So, but I love her.
Does she like worship Trump? That's the thing. I don't care if you voted for Trump. I don't even care if you like Trump. But if you are like worshiping him and saying that somehow this is a man of God. I watched that inauguration yesterday. I was like, he is not a man of God.
No,
he's not. Yeah. So that's I fully respect people's political views. 100%. I'm not gonna like whatever. But the part that bothers me is when like people like Trump, when he capitalizes on the name of Jesus, when he's not even, I mean, who knows? I don't know his true heart, but just based on like,
I don't see
facial expressions and like he's not looking to serve God in this position.
No.
But was the other candidate either? No.
Yeah, but she wasn't claiming to.
Right.
I know, but it's like I don't think we can hold these people to a standard that we think.
Well, no.
But if you're basing your decision because you think that this is a prophetic thing that he is God ordained,
well, and he's manipulated like an entire population of people.
Yes, no, that is scary.
President, he's the most Christian president in our world.
Right? Like, what? That makes me feel like a crazy person when people say stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
I did discredit that.
That he's a Christian?
No, that the prophecies.
Oh.
She was like...
Yes, but not because they're not true.
Uh-huh.
She discredited them because prophecy is tied to like witchcraft and sorcery. So the double standard is disturbing.
But then, I don't know who you follow, but then I could probably say the same things about people you follow and be like, what the what?
For sure.
But I don't care. I don't care to know those things because I'm like... It just doesn't
In
hold
fact,
that
I did
much.
stop following a guy who just is really mean to people on the other side.
Because yeah,
One could
basically
say
it's like,
he's really smart too, but he just like
yes.
cusses them out. And
Yes.
not that I disagree completely with what he's saying to them, but like that's not kind. And I don't want to follow people like that because then you're just doing the same thing on the other side.
Well, and you're feeding the way that you view the world with people who view it the same way, but in a way that's so harsh and
Not love
like
it.
I'm trying to gain understanding of both sides. I'm trying to gain like and I'm not letting it hold too much value while still trying to be like I can love people and be aware of their journey and
I,
agree and disagree and it still be fine,
I
you
think
know?
I think the hard part is that most people's thoughts, ideas, opinions are driven by social media, and your algorithms are going to be filled with the things that you
Insane.
think and believe. And so the fact that you were like trying to like read the other side, like we even put on Fox News the other day because I was like, I'm so curious, like what are they saying as this is all unfolding?
Well, that was the most
As to say,
disturbing thing to me about the inauguration was that the front row was
Jeff
Mark
Bezos,
Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, the head of Google, the head of
TikTok.
Apple, the head of TikTok. That is what is so frightening to me.
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention the people that he's putting in cabinet positions, but like
yeah, the power
it's
within it all.
in like it feels like dystopian. It
Yeah.
feels there has to be a better way. I just know that it feels very extreme. Like I don't remember it being this
No.
Fear
extreme.
driven. Uh-huh. See, I'm not following her anymore.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't want it to be like
Oh no, I'm glad you
me
said
being
something.
hateful. I
You're
just
being hateful.
when I noticed, I was just like,
No,
oh God.
I'm glad you asked for
Especially because
clarity.
she's one of the most
it's okay.
concerning of all the people.
Because I would hope that yeah, even if we don't align, that like I'm not harsh on either side.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that you asked for clarity so you could know that like I'm not a crazy person.
And these are the
And I just-
conversations people need to have to be like, I just want better understanding of like why.
Yeah, like
you
it's
know?
fine.
Well, and it's really too bad because I think the, conservatives do need someone to, but she's just such an example of like what happens when you get power and when you get money and when you get influence and when you get a taste of, oh, I could use this platform to get myself elected to make decisions about stuff that perhaps I don't know. It's mostly her rhetoric around like she hates immigrants. She hates people of color. She hates
To come up with an
I don't know.
effective way to get once people they're already here. What's the point of they have jobs? Like I'm like, figure out a way to help them become a citizen.
And honestly, I want to be like, I want to hear from the people who live on those borders because what that reverend said was like, majority of these immigrants are not criminals. Like
Right.
you're literally spewing lies that are not true. I mean, my friends who live in Dallas live within these communities of refugees, mostly from Middle Eastern people, and they love them and they're wanting to share the gospel with them. And what's going to happen to all of them? Are all of their jobs going to go away because there no longer will be refugees because they're all taken away? I don't know. It's just like super confusing. Like, and they're here legally because they fled their war-torn countries. So
we actually have partnered, our church partnered with Iraqi families who have been brought here.
mm-hmm.
So like 2 years ago, there was a family of 5 that was brought here. I had actually signed up to help with it, but then I found out I was pregnant and just like didn't want to go there. But so I don't know what's going to happen with them now. I don't know if they've become American citizens, but yeah, our church banned on to that kind of
yeah,
loving those people, and
that's
we
what
had
Jesus
like a
says to do.
I know.
Love the foreigner, love the widow, love.
It's just like if it's so hard to wrap your mind around it, then come up with a system. Because I do like checks and balances. Like I feel like that makes sense. That's how America has worked. Like, but
it doesn't exist anymore. Because if you don't follow Trump, you gone.
it's so interesting. You're like, okay, God, what were you thinking? If it's so black and white, like.
But is it black and white? That's the question.
I mean, it is
I
in
mean,
the Bible.
Pre-fall. right? He created them male and female. But then the fall happened. And then, I mean, not to mention that like everyone in the Old Testament was basically sleeping with their relative.
Insanity. I mean, it's basically
So-
everything today. Everything today.
Polygamy, concubines.
Right? Like all of that just puts things in perspective to me
It's
of like,
always been broken.
hold on.
Sodom and
I
Gomorrah.
really
hello.
don't think that God is like, hey, here's all these things that you better make sure that you're perfect. Like, since when is he expecting perfection? All he wants is for our eyes to be turned to him and for him to get the glory.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And when that happens, you know, I think it helps perhaps bring the kingdom here on earth a little bit more, as far as like people loving each other and people forgiving each other and people listening to each other and fighting for each other and standing up for each other and whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. I just really don't feel like the transgender thing, the LGBTQ thing is anything that we are supposed to be, not from a place that's like all of our policies and everything that we're doing should be trying to get rid of that. Like, I just don't know
Yeah.
if, especially when there's so much more horrible things happening in the
Yeah.
world and on the earth and in our flipping churches. I don't know.
Yes. I have just constantly, like, even today with talking with Lineal, feel like very unsettled, you know, about all this. And I'm like, but what I'm reminded is that like God is on the throne. And that is like, at the end of the day, like, I mean, he allowed evil people to be in power in the
Yeah,
past
that's
too.
not new either.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, God, like I just pray for protection. And I pray that like I can be an example of Jesus to the people around me, you know, and that's what I can control.
Well, but I also think you have to know that like just because what she believes, it doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like in what you believe isn't wrong. Like I think there's a really fine balance of like you guys aren't 100% right. She's not 100% right. Neither am
Mhm.
I. Like I don't think it's fair to think one side is right and one side is wrong.
No.
No.
Because I think God is obviously speaking in just the three of us, very different priorities and I mean, yeah, like we don't all align on things, yet I'm not thinking that my viewpoint is it. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, my viewpoint is based on what I'm doing in my life, you know, how God is taking me on my journey to love him. So it's like, I don't think it's fair to say that Trump supporters are wrong. Just like I don't think it's fair to say that people who love and are passionate about immigrants and stuff are wrong. I think it's, I don't know. There's
Well, and I certainly don't think I have 100% knowledge on anything that's happening. I think that we're all in danger of being influenced by
yes,
people,
for sure,
right?
who think that they are the end all be all.
Well, and I think that is where we have to be really careful about how we're engaging with stuff on social media because, yeah, because I think it can be a little bit dangerous where I'm like, hold on, I need to see what this person is saying about this, then I'll know how I feel about it,
Right.
which I think is not the right way to do it, which is why, like, I wasn't going to watch the inauguration for my own mental health. But then my friend was like, I just feel like if I don't watch it, I'm going to miss something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I should watch it firsthand
Yep.
because I already know that the news outlets and the people that I follow may not give me the actual accurate thing that happened.
They're going to skew it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I watched it myself and was sick to my stomach listening to his speech. But it also was like, okay, then I'm going to pray about all of this. And I said the very same thing, you know, like as he's speaking and as I'm feeling scared and sick and worried, I just was thinking corrupt kings have existed in the past. Kings who said they followed you but don't, who claim to follow you but then turn away. Like none of that is anything new.
Yeah.
And when he talked about, the two gender thing, I just was like, Lord, have mercy on the people who are scared because of what he just said. And I think that is where I feel passionate about, like, I don't want to just sit back, especially out of like respect slash fear, right? Because we run in circles that are conservative and liberal, where like it's not safe to share this, it's not safe to share that. But like I think we're in a time period where it's actually really important for you to share your conviction, because people are listening and people are looking. Not that I'm going to like become like a crazy extremist, but I just feel like I think it's okay to talk about the things that are important, especially if it's out of a place of love, right? Like, I don't want anything bad to happen to Donald Trump or Elon Musk or any of these people. I strongly disagree with them and I'm worried about what they're going to do. I actually watched a video, one of the YouTube channels that I watched that would probably offend you pretty much. They did like a deep dive on and like her whole history, and like, and it actually was really helpful because they're not about like dehumanizing or being hateful to people. Like, it was really helpful for me to hear her whole story and kind of hear that in that perspective and be like, oh, okay, she's a human, God loves her, and I don't have the luxury of hating people. If I'm going to be a follower of Jesus, I don't have the luxury of hating people.
Right.
And I think both sides are really guilty of like dehumanizing and being hateful. And I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Same.
So,
and I think it's incredibly hard to navigate, because I think what's really unfortunate is if you stand on one side, then you obviously are against the other. And I just won't stand for that. I'm like, that's not fair. That is not who I am. But there are things that I like. I'm going to base, when I don't know what to believe, I'm going to go to the Bible, and that's just what I'm going to do. I can't be swayed by societal comforts or perspectives. Like, because I will be.
Right.
So like, for my own faith and for my own walk, for my own understanding, there are just things that I'm like, okay, Lord, I really just think it's unfortunate that the stance on anything has to be so blatantly against the other side.
Right. That there's no way that you could possibly be like moderate, which is where I stand. Like,
Me too.
I'm not like here,
Same.
and I'm not here. I'm like in the middle. So don't put me in this box. Like, if I'm a
Exactly. That's why
Christian-
I'm like,
yeah.
that's why I'm like, no, I think when people feel passion, it's tricky, because there's like passion, when you know like God has called you to serve vulnerable people, that's your heart. And then there's brainwash and putting people like on an altar and saying, you are God, you are that is
Right.
wrong. But
Right.
I'm like, no, passion and knowing like God is calling you to something, that's totally different.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. Like, we need checks and balances of like, what's becoming an idol? What's big, like,
and that, I mean, and I think that's the scary thing. When you see people who are such Trump crazy people, it's because they don't know God. They're putting Trump in this attainable position that they're like, okay, then you're the closest thing to who can have control and make decisions for me and show me how to live. And sure, it all sounds
bring
great.
me
Yep.
hope and
And it's like,
security
oh,
or
no.
whatever.
That's the scary part. Like, I'm like, y'all are swaying and believing in a person that is not, he's not God. He's not in control. What are you doing?
Yeah. So it'll just be like really interesting to see how everything plays out. Like, the first 100 days of like a new president is like critical. Like, that's where they make really big decisions. And so I don't know if some of this is just like media fodder too.
What did Biden do in his first 100 days?
I think, well, I
I was just
I don't know
curious.
for sure, but I think he did undo a lot of what
Trump did.
Trump had done. So that's the thing. Like, that's the other part of all of this that's so disturbing is
Yeah.
like, why do
Yeah.
I have so many old, white,
Seriously,
stupid men?
who think they know everything.
Like, they don't know anything. Also, I saw this clip of Obama from some interview or something where he was talking about like, he was basically saying like, guys, there's fools everywhere. You can sit in the room with the top world leaders of the planet. And he's like, there's fools there.
Mhm.
Not everyone. You don't like, you think that these people in high places of power are like super smart and like whatever. And he was like, those tech gurus, there's a bunch of fools there too. Like,
Mhm.
no one has a corner on like all of the knowledge or whatever in the world, right? Like, every circle is going to have someone who is crazy.
Can we
And
just re-elect Obama? Is that an
I
option?
wish.
I
I
wish
know,
too.
honestly, I'm like,
I know.
or Bush, like, I
Or
don't care.
Michelle. I mean, I'd go for
Seriously.
seriously.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
she's smart enough
love
not
that
to do it.
she
though.
didn't go. Like, she's like,
Hell no. She didn't go to, well, she didn't go to Jimmy Carter's funeral either. But like, I don't know, a lot of people are like, we don't need to explain ourselves. Like,
no,
let this be the
don't.
year where you just don't show up and you don't have to explain yourself. So I'm like, yeah.
I would totally go for Obama again. He was like,
well, he
I feel-
can't. He already served 2 terms, right?
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
or
don't know.
Bush. I would do George Bush again. I know you probably don't agree with him, but
No, I voted for him.
I
Okay.
liked him because he
liked him.
actually
That was when I
loves
was more
Jesus.
conservative than I am now. But
But he
you
would
know
be
what?
a
The
breath of
Republican
fresh
Party
air.
looks so different these days.
Yes.
Very different from when we were growing up. Like it's a
I think both parties both look different because I've voted both.
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean,
No, politics in general, like
it's
the
such
way that there are so
a
many
joke.
old people
It's a joke.
in Congress.
So it just is a whole mess. I'm like, can we just like do a reset of all the people?
right.
Because now everyone's like,
Yes.
hey, if anything, this election has shown you, you don't need to have imposter syndrome. You can be whatever you want to be and not even be qualified. You can be a felon and be
Right.
president. Like you can do whatever you want, you know, like
Right, the amount of people in his cabinet who are television personalities.
Pete
Who is
Hegseth.
Insane.
Who? What?
Pete
Pete
Hegseth?
Hegseth is the,
I don't know who that
what
is.
is he? Homeland Security?
No,
No.
he's going to be the Secretary of Defense.
Oh yeah, he's
This-
a Fox News anchor.
Fox News anchor. You know what previous Secretary of Defense were? 4-star generals have sat in that position. He served maybe 4 years as a reservist. He failed. He like totally put a veterans program into the ground. Who has no business being in that position, being in charge of all the military. And he says women should not be in combat. They should be moms in the kitchen.
That was the other he said recently. She like retweeted him and was like, yes, he's right. Women should not be in the military.
Well, you know what? It's the women in the military who actually were able to get good intel because they could get in with the women. Like,
Women are absolutely necessary in every form of every,
no,
you know.
I know.
Oh my god.
But this is the
Which
problem
is
having
why
men.
DEI is important, right? Because it ensures that there are spots available for women.
I see.
I'm just praying for like conviction mostly. Like, please, somewhere in your heart, be like, you know what? No, like the Constitution is what I have like vowed in my things to uphold, you know, not my personal convictions or my religious convictions or whatever. Like, there has to be a break. Like, you got to be bipartisan. It's not going to happen.
I did like that Trump maybe will give homeschool families $10,000.
Oh, I didn't know about that one. What is that, like vouchers or something?
I had this and I know I was like, I don't know what that means though. Does that
That
mean
probably
taxes?
means that public education will
Go down the
He
drain.
said no, he said it was it talked about how he's gonna allow all families to have
like school of choice.
school of choice.
Mhm.
I don't know.
And vouchers. Which, okay. But then you have stuff like in Arizona where they created a voucher system that then pulled all the funds out of public education and gave it to these families without any real regulations around it.
Who? Homeschool?
Hmm. Remember how Beth told you, like in Arizona, you get like $7,000 and you can spend it on whatever you want. And so there's like homeschool families who pull their kids out of public school, but then get this money from the state government. And then they're buying like computers and furniture and memberships to whatever, which, okay.
But there's always going to be sucky, stupid people.
But
Who take
the
advantage
problem
of it.
is, like, she was telling me that even in Show Low, she's like, I still have to like count those people like in our numbers or whatever. And she said the amount of parents who had their children in private schools went from like 93 to like 467 in like the course of a couple years. So that's like a 400% increase.
So that they could get their hands on the money. Well, so my hope is like, because I told Alex today, he's like, well, that's fine, but then the money's going to come from somewhere. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just saying, as making a choice for our family, it would be nice to also, we're taxpayers into public school, yet we don't see any of that money,
Mhm.
you know? So it's like, as a family that chooses this for our family, it would be nice to have some type of benefit instead of like, shame on you for choosing this for your family. It'd be nice to be like, way to go, you. But that, I mean, that doesn't mean I want it taken from kiddos who need it in public school. So I'm like, so what are they going to do? Tax the heck out of people?
Well,
Or,
that's the problem. Like, there's no quick fix to any of this.
well, and it's like they need to make sure as well. Like, I'm like, hopefully they'll have, you know,
They didn't
You
have
need
that for the loans they gave people for COVID either. There was no checks and balances in people who got those. Some people, sure, fulfilled the requirements, but other people took advantage of it. And I think that that's the problem. It takes one
it's bound to
person
happen.
to like screw the system.
Right.
And I guess like for me, like I think the other thing is there's sure there's this like great benefit, but how many people have the privilege of staying home? Like, you know, because a lot of people don't have that privilege. So then they get stuck in like really shitty public schools because they don't have funding anymore because they've gotten rid of the Department of Education. So then what? Now we're gonna have a whole generation of really poorly educated people that like affects things like moving forward. So there's no winning. There's no winning.
Also, it doesn't make sense if he's like, let's get rid of the Department of Education and put the power in the hands of the states. But also, I'm going to say that all these families need to get, well, sir, if you put the power in the hand of the state, you don't actually get to say that. So what's your plan? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, Abby, like people aren't all like you guys, like with integrity and have like you are choosing to do this and like raising amazingly smart, sweet, kind kiddos. Like that's not everybody's like intention when taking this money either. Because
Yeah, and I mean, I get that.
People.
I'm just saying, like, it's cool, you know, as a homeschool stay-at-home mom who gets zero credit for what I do.
Yeah.
It's cool to be recognized in some way, state or form. That's like, hey, we see you. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That seems like a cool way to honor my family that's making this choice. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you're the target audience that he wanted for votes. Just saying. Like, I don't know. Like, who knows? Like, because that was kind of part of his whole thing too. And so I think a lot of people were like, oh, if that's the case, then I'm voting for him.
No, I honestly, I found that out today.
Well, especially because unfortunately, like that is the pipeline, right? Like the conservative Christian, like the trad wife movement,
Mhm.
the like
Trad wife.
the
Sourdough
traditional
maker.
wife, like
The what maker?
Sourdough.
like the
with
raw
chickens.
milk stuff that
Oh,
everybody's
oh,
talking
that's
about, like
weird.
homesteading. Yeah, so like, but that is like it's so entangled together that
Yeah.
like the moms who are like, I stay at home and I make the meals for my husband and I do everything for him, and my role as a woman is to be lowly and to submit, and like, which none of those things individually are bad, but when it's like it's because women are like it's because women are less, it's because men are more powerful, it's because women can't do anything else but raise children, and Like, but that, like, those are the same women who tend to homeschool their children, who also are going to be more, so it's all kind of globbed up together, which is really unfortunate because then it's that much easier to be like shoved into a group that maybe you don't necessarily
Right. Identify with fully. You're like,
associate
yeah, I'm a
with.
homeschool
And
family,
if
but
I'm put in that group, that, I mean, that's not on me. That's on someone else. Like, I'm gonna be me and let everyone else do what they want with it, whether you put me in a box or not. Like, that's not my problem. I know what I'm convicted with. I
Mhm.
don't need to prove anything to anybody.
right. And
We're
that's the
like,
unfortunate thing. I think it's the same thing like, oh, you're a Christian, therefore you hate gays, you hate
right.
X, Y,
And it's
Z.
like, no, that's actually not the truth.
Right.
I don't even know what to do with it, but it doesn't mean I hate them. Good heavens.
Yeah.
No.
And I think it's possible to be someone who works in public education who also supports homeschooling, or someone who homeschools their
Mhm.
kids who strongly supports public education. I
Absolutely.
think both of those things can be true.
I think so too.
Which unfortunately, especially in the Christian circles, they're not good at handling two things being true at the same time.
No.
In fact, they would say that's sinful. That's not possible.
No, being convicted and being called to what God has for you is not saying one is right and one is wrong.
Can you piece a podcast episode together from this whole conversation?
No.
Unfortunately, I think it's like kind of a valuable
I think it is
conversation
too.
because we're so different.
But
I
it's
know.
also very honoring. Like, it's not.
But yeah, how to do that in a way that's not demonizing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the trickiest part, which sucks too, because you're like, we need these conversations. Like, this was the whole reason why we did this podcast, is to be like, okay, all three of us see things differently, but yet we can have civil conversations. We can disagree. We can ask questions to clarify. This is the kind of stuff that needs to happen within families and things like that. Like, because how are we supposed to coexist in a loving way that honors God when we don't see eye to eye on things?
When you put your own selfishness to the side and you get to listen, that's when you actually listen and hear people. And
Right.
then you can see past your own discomfort in it and say, like, wow, that's really cool. That's really cool that you have a heart for that. That's really
so
cool.
interesting. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to think about that.
Like, why are we so offended?
I think we're afraid of being wrong, which I don't think is based in anything true.
I think I'm scared of being misled. Like, I think that's where the struggle was in the election. Like, it was like, oh, what? Like, which way do you go? I don't know, And I think that's why I think I was scared of being like on one side or the other when it feels like one is right and one is wrong. I was like, nope.
We were raised in a Republican, conservative, Christian loving home. And as we've like grown, it's a little bit more gray. We're a little bit more moderate. Like, we are on different spectrums, and that's okay. That we still, our heart behind everything we do and believe and want to whatever is driven by like honoring God with our own like personal convictions, and like remembering like where God fits in all of this, that nobody else sits on that throne except Jesus.
And that no relationship is worth jeopardizing for the sake of politics.
Right.
Well, and that like you can't hold politics at like the end all be all.
No.
It can't, like, that is just the saddest thing I've ever heard. Like, it just can't.
Right. Because it's fleeting. I mean, we
Right.
just talked about how drastically different both parties look now compared to 10 years ago or whatever. It's fleeting, they're human, and they're humans with a lot of power and money, and that just can't be trusted. If we've learned anything from history and the Bible, it's that power and money cannot be trusted.
And I also think that like you cannot put your identity in a party.
No.
Like, and I think you have to be able to like differentiate who you are, who God's called you to be, and these issues that are in the earthly realm and how to navigate them through God's eyes. Yes, they're there, but like your identity does not lie within these parties. And if it does, Lord have mercy, because
Check
you're not,
yourself.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
like that's not where we're called to like put hope, yeah, gain understanding, like none of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think for quite some time now, I've really struggled with like, where do I fit in all of this when it comes to faith and what I believe when it comes to like politics and policies. And it's just been a journey of like, I don't really identify with any of the groups. I'm like, some things I agree with and other things I don't. And I think that's really challenging, especially as like a believer navigating this world, because I don't want to be put into a box and be assumed that I believe X, Y, and Z when that actually might not be true, you know? At the end of the day,
Yep.
I just want to like be Jesus to people, love people, show kindness and compassion. And at the end of the day, it's God's who's going to change hearts and convict people of their sin, you know?
Well, I think it takes a lot of discernment too. Being careful about, yeah, about what you're consuming
Yes.
and who you're following, because there are a lot of really wise, loving, powerful, passionate people on Instagram who I value what they have to say. But I think you have to be careful because no one is immune from influence and power, and you can watch the evolution of people when they get that taste, and all of a sudden you're following them and you're like, wait, what did you just say?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's so jarring, similar to the toast, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where all these people are like, wait, it's like they're waking up to
Mm-hmm.
this toxicity that has kind of existed for a long time, but that is now so
Blatant.
blatant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it feels really crazy when you're like, I can't believe I spent so much time
Mm-hmm.
listening to this person or following this person or like giving them my money.
Or like almost turning a blind eye, like when things were a
Yeah.
little like and then you just kind of like push it under the rug and keep going. But eventually that mound of dirt under that rug is quite a hill and it's hard to like ignore. Yeah. So, but it's like also you got to be careful with like cancel culture too, to be like, "Well, I'm canceling you and I'm not following you," or like, I'm not gonna lie, I have muted quite a few people in the last few days because I'm like what you said, like the things, like if what I'm seeing or reading makes this ugly green monster inside me of like whatever, like that doesn't feel good, like I just need to like put it on mute for a little bit because that's not honoring. I don't want to have feelings towards whoever posts whatever. um but I'm trying to like protect myself too. But I like what you said earlier, Molly, about when you see something that like causes you fear or is like really unsettling, rather than going to like the voices on the internet that you usually like to hear their take on things, like the first place you go to is like the cross. Like, all right, Lord, I need to bring these fears and these concerns to you because ultimately he's the one on the throne. He's the one who's holding it, who's sovereign over all, like that's like a healthy way of dealing with it rather than being like, I'm so curious what so and so has to say about blah, blah, blah.
Well, like we have the Bible, hello, like go to the Bible, see what scripture has. Like God gave that to us to use as a tool. So
Right.
it's like use that.
Right. Yeah.
I think also like talking to people who you actually have a relationship with, right? So like
That feels safe.
talking to each other, talking to a friend, like because it's going to be far more like edifying if I'm talking to a friend who's also watching the inauguration to be like, did he really just say that? Like, how are you, versus watching the inauguration and then looking to my influencer people
Right.
about what they're having to say, right? Because especially because I think the way that well, at any period of time, right? The way that we combat hate and fear and prejudice and racism and all, like the way you fight those things is by connecting with other humans. And that's how you create a resistance to things that are evil. And it's in community, it's in connection, it's in relationship. Like those are the things that are going to get us through the next 4 years, whether you're excited about the presidency or you're scared about it. The way we get through the next 4 years is with each other, which I think is the other reason why it's really important for politics to not be the thing that gets in the way of relationships with other people, especially people that you don't agree with. And I think that Satan really gets to celebrate when families are torn apart because of politics. Now, I will say, like, if a family member is harmful, then that's a reason to distance yourself. If they are harmful, if they are cruel, then there's a reason to like put some distance there. But just because they think differently than you or voted differently than you is not something worth cutting a relationship off for.
Yeah.
Because then that's discrediting everything that we've said. Literally.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Politics can't be your identity.
Well, and like, that's not the way we were raised anyways. We weren't raised in a bubble. Like we were raised in a very liberal town. We were raised in the public school system. So we were exposed to a lot of different things, which I'm so grateful for, because I think that gave us a capacity to be like, oh, other people don't believe the same thing we do. Okay, cool. But I still love them. I can still play sports with them and be friends with them. But in the home, like, then we talk about like, here's what we believe. Because I think the risk is if you surround yourself with only like-minded people, and that is the only thing that you're ever going to expose your children to, whatever, they're missing a whole lot of the world that they're going to have to interact with. And I think that that's also the thing. Like I even saw that like going to a Christian school, like, oh my, like a lot of these people have never really dealt with the world. And that's just not the reality of where we live in this world. That's like very diverse and people don't think the same. And so how do you interact with people and love them and have conversation and community with them, you know? So.
Well, I think too, like, I'm not a parent, but I was just talking with a friend recently about, you know, the difficulty of finding community, especially when you do have kids and then you've got families who have different values or like raise their kids differently or parent their kids differently or discipline them differently. And like, one, I think that discernment piece is really important. Like you do want to put yourself in a community where you feel safe and where you're going to be able to build each other up. And so like there's a place and an importance for like having a community that has similar values.
Totally.
But then also like trying to be open to like, how do we love the world together? And anyways, I was talking to this friend about what a cool opportunity for you to like talk to your kids about how we make those decisions. And I was like, your kids are at an age where you can together create a list of values that are really important to your family. Like, what do we care a lot about? And what are the things that we're going to be looking for when we're looking for a new community? And then praying and saying, okay, God, here's our list. Here's what we're looking for. Can you bring us to this place that has all of these things and like give us wisdom on how to love people when they don't meet this list of values that we've got? Like, I think that is what matters in all of this. It's not the right or the wrong or the, you know, what's biblical and what's not. Like, those are important things, but God is living and active. The word is living and active. So we have to treat it that way, which means we got to talk to him about it and talk to him about like, okay, Lord, I just listened to this crazy speech on the television from this person who is now in charge of our country, and it makes me feel sick to my stomach. What am I going to do? What do I do? What do I do with this? How do I do my job? How do I love my family? How do I navigate difficult relationships? Like, what do I do with all of this? That's where God shows up. And that's where transformation happens. And that's where discernment and wisdom comes from. The Bible is 100% important. And I'm not trying to discredit that. But I just think we can also get ourselves in trouble when we aren't talking to God or listening to his voice.
Yeah.
In conjunction with all the other parts.
Life's hard. Navigating this very complex world. Messy. It's broken. So wherever you find yourself in these days, whether you're elated or frightened or in the middle, you're not alone, like in those feelings. And so now that we've had this therapeutic session of, debriefing on the last 48 hours, as we enter this new year, we're still in January, so this is still, the new year. What is it that you are looking forward to? Do you guys have any like resolutions or anything like that in the year 2025?
I mean, short term is that you're moving here. So, I mean, that's what's so wild is like in the insanity that is 2025, we also have some really big things happening in our family. So
very exciting things. I really think we're like 3 weeks away.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Like 3.5 weeks away from like driving away, driving to Colorado. It's going to be great.
Crazy. Oh my gosh, 3 weeks is nothing.
Yeah.
It's the golden age of the Evans family, that's for sure.
Like, if you told me 20 years ago that somehow, although we're all spread out across the country, that somehow we would all end up in the same place to like raise families together, I wouldn't have.
And that it would be Grand Junction, Colorado.
In the best years of our life.
Right.
It's crazy.
When we're like really close and tight.
Yes. I know,
like that's like such a gift.
Yes.
Such a gift. I just keep thinking how I'm just so thankful to get to do life with you all. Like, I feel like I'm like already walking into like, automatic friends, like going church shopping, like all these things that I get to like do and then debrief and like all in flesh,
Right. It's just not even comprehensible, really.
No.
Yeah. It's quite shocking. But God works in like really cool ways.
So kind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Molly, I feel like there's something very exciting happening, like, I don't know, in like 5 months for you or 4 months.
Well, I am turning 40,
which
is also really weird.
You don't look 40 with that.
No.
I don't feel 40.
I feel like 40 is prime time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe that's also, hold on to that.
Yeah.
40 doesn't mean you're like old and in a coffin. It's like
No.
Old and in a coffin.
40 is like the best years of your life.
Yeah.
So I hear.
Yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, I do turn 40 this year, and I am pretty sure that I'm gonna walk the Camino.
So cool.
And I think I'm gonna try and do the whole thing, which
Baller.
is really crazy.
Baller.
And I've definitely been having some like, because I started reading that book that I checked out at the library.
Oh no.
That's like a memoir of this father and son walking the Camino.
Is it the same one that you watched?
No.
Oh, a different one.
It's like very good and kind of chill, but it like talks about, because he's with his teenage son. So his teenage son is kind of like, why are we doing this? And I don't know. I just had this the other night. I was like, what if I like really hate it? And I'm like lonely and tired and in pain and like.
I think that's really good to think about though, because you probably will feel those things.
Yeah.
Along with like.
Almost guaranteed.
Right. But along with spiritual awakening.
Well, and I think it just like helps me really decide, why are you doing this? And
I think it's really good to think about those things.
What
the things that don't make it pretty
but I even told Mom the other night, I was like, I'm a little bit afraid that I'm gonna go over there and be like, I don't think I can come back to Grand Junction. Like,
it's gonna be dreamy.
But fortunately, there's a reason to come back in July. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm super excited for you, Mom. I think it's super cool. Like, one thing that you are now that I've like, as you've blossomed into this, like, such a badass, if I can say that, is the fact that like you are fearless and you're like, I'm going to do a half marathon. Boom. I'm going to do Imogene. Boom. I'm going to walk the Camino. Like you're just fearless and I just love it.
thanks.
So, yeah. Awesome. Abby, what's 2025 looking like? What are you looking forward to?
She's back at the running thing. Speaking of badass.
For real. I feel
Yeah.
like you're back in like your zone. Like you've been
In
on like
beast
hiatus for a
mode.
little bit. Yeah, yeah. You're like,
Yeah,
I just got a root canal and I just ran my 5-mile PR. Like, who does that? Like, so
Seriously.
cool.
yeah, no, running is, I don't know. I think I'm reading this book and it's just like enlightening me a little bit about like how your life could take different paths.
What is it?
And it's called the Mystery Library, or no, the Midnight Library.
Okay.
Anyway, and I don't know, I think Alex and I have just talked a lot about like before him and I got married, I really had the desire to be like a professional cyclist, and I really could have done that.
Mhm.
And how I have some regrets with that,
Mhm.
while also being like, it's fine. Like, I know God had other plans for me, and I'm sure He was protecting me. But it's like, I can still tap into that person.
For sure.
She's in there, and I want to tap into that.
Mhm.
Sure.
Um,
Well, it's not too late.
right. And
You
so
can
I
do
think
whatever you
it's
want.
just, I think it's just kind of reigniting, yeah, just that. I don't want to say elite athlete because that way over exaggerates it, but I just think there's this part of me that I really could have done, I don't know, something big, but I didn't, and that it's okay. And believing that like what I'm doing is still really big and great because it's what God had in store. So, and I just think running is just becoming this outlet again for me to just like let that girl be who she is. And I just think, yeah, allowing myself to be who I am and not be concerned how other people take it, whether it seems like I'm competing with them, whether it seems like I'm whatever. Like I just don't, I'm just choosing to not care. As long as I'm doing it from a heart of like, of kindness and humility.
Sure.
I'm just trying this year to just like hone in on what I feel called to, whether that's like making a meal for a family in need or running a really fast race or doing my best at homeschooling. I'm just like, I'm just going to do the best that I can and not care how other people take it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Awesome. And you're reading. I'm so proud of you. That was like a
I
goal of yours.
know, I know. I'm trying. Oh yeah, so I'm also trying. I started the plan through my church to do the Bible in a year. I've never read the whole
Ooh,
Bible.
can I do it with you? Because I would love to do it. Where are you? Like, how many days in are you?
Uh,
Like 21?
oh, I started a few days before January 1st, but
Oh,
um
I'm behind. But
I'm not that far in.
okay.
I'm almost done with Genesis. I
Mm.
just finished Mark.
Are you doing
I'm
like
not that far
a
in.
daily audio Bible kind of a thing?
No, it was a printout and you just check it off every day.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I'm trying to do that too because I'm like, that's important. I mean,
I've never read it.
Me neither.
right. So I'm like, I know that that's probably important if I preach about like, well, read the Bible. I'm like, well, maybe I should read the Bible. So that's what I'm starting with. So nothing like humbling yourself enough to say, wow, do I actually know what I'm talking about?
Right.
But it's been really good. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. 2025 has lots of excitement, lots of change, lots of unknown. I think the biggest announcement is the fact that we are with child, that we are finally pregnant and expecting a baby to arrive in July. And ironically enough, they are arriving the day Kevin retires from the Air Force. So kind of an interesting like retirement baby. Interesting timing. We are moving in about 3.5 weeks to Grand Junction into mom and dad's house until we find a house. You know, it's just like, we don't really know what the next year looks like for us in terms of, you know, Kevin's applying for pilot school. We'll find out in February if he gets in. If that doesn't happen, what do we do? I don't know. So, you know, like lots of things are just like constantly being put at the foot of the cross of just like, okay, Lord, I know you're a sovereign and I know you're in control. So yeah, just like really shifting what life is going to look like, I think is hard to wrap our minds around, but I'm just like so grateful to be doing it with you guys. Like that in itself, like I was thinking, oh, I have a village, like a built-in village as I go there. Abby, you are a well-oiled machine mom with so much wisdom and your kiddos are delightful. And I'm like, okay, I need to like replicate whatever you all are doing. And I want my kids to be around your kids, you know, like that's what I want. And I want them to be around Molly and mom and dad. And like, I'm just so excited to like raise our families together, which I think is just so special.
It's so great. Oh my gosh. The fact that like cousins will actually get to know each other and have life together and not just be like some person on a Christmas card.
Right. Like, and the thing is like, obviously we just talked to our cousins last month and I'm like, y'all are so cool. The sucky part is this like distance that we've had over the course of the last, you know, 30 plus years. It really makes it challenging to have good relationships when you're not like doing life together or seeing each other.
Totally.
So yeah, so I'm just like really excited about that. I'm excited to see what God's gonna do, you know, in 2025. I do feel like this is what someone would have like maybe like a redemption year is what I'm hoping for.
Especially for you guys. Geez, 2024. Bye.
It was a rough one. But you know, I think what it did teach me is that like God is so present even in like the suckiest of times. And I think that that's what gives me hope. And that's what keeps me clinging to Jesus when things feel scary and unsettling and fear wants to creep in. And you're just like, no, like God is with me and his presence is with us. And yeah, so I think the next few weeks are going to be really challenging though, because this church family has been by far the best gift. Like what you were saying earlier, Molly, about like praying specifically for community when we were moving here, because I suffered greatly in DC with the lack of friends. And I was like, God, all I'm asking is for you to bring me people. And he did like the first day we got here. And so it's going to be really hard to like say goodbye to some of these friends who've just like been there in some of our hardest times. And so, but the cool thing is we're going to come back here because, you know, Kevin's family lives here. So it's not like we're come back here. So anyways, just like really trying to be intentional with the people here while we're here, you know.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, just praying our house goes through with no issues, that we close, leave this place with no strings attached. But I think this was a really good conversation. I think this was super helpful, at least for me to kind of share what I've been feeling.
I think it's great.
Yeah. No, hopefully people have some courage to like maybe try to have some hard conversations with the people in their inner circles too.
So tricky. It has to be a safe place.
It's not always a safe place.
Well, thanks for joining us for Word with the Girls, the podcast where one word sparks conversation. And today's word definitely sparked some good conversation. So we hope you take this word cautiously to the people in your circles. And yeah, we encourage you to have good, healthy conversations about hard topics, you know? Make sure to like, follow, and share on Instagram and YouTube. And sooner than later, we're all going to be together doing the podcast in the flesh, all three of us. So make sure you follow along, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
This song is so good. I literally sprinted for parts of it because I was so, oh my God, it's so good.
Run, little girl, bang, hustle. Honey, I've changed so much since I last saw you.
You need to do this one.
We love Jesus.
What?
Yeah.